All right, here we go, everybody. Wichita Paramotor, coast to coast. And I am lucky enough to have Mike Isbell and his son, Corbin, with us today. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Pretty good, can't complain.
Good. So, this is the first time with you here on Wichita Paramotor, coast to coast. Corbin?
It sure is. Excited to be here.
Good. And Mike, he's a returning guy.
I've been here before.
Good. So, you guys fly at Wichita Paramotor?
Well, I fly.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet.
Getting close. Working towards it.
Yeah, so you're training with us now there, Corbin.
Yep, officially.
And, yeah, you've even got equipment, got a wing on the way. And also looking to get in the air here really quick, right?
Well, depending on progression, I'm still getting more comfortable and more compliant with kiting, but I'm rapidly approaching to the point where I got it pretty well under control.
Yeah, I think you're actually doing pretty good. So, Mike, we'll start with you. Give
Okay.
yourself a little reintroduction here.
Can I do a shout out real quick? Oh, you know I will.
Okay.
Hello, Riley. Hello, Liv. Hello, Julian. Hello, Maya. There, got my other kids.
All right, gotcha. So you got them in tow. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about yourself real quick. I know we've kind of been here before, but tell me a little bit. Let's.
Well, we won't go set the Wayback Machine all the way to when I was born,
No.
but
Are you originally from Kansas?
nope, born in Ohio.
Okay.
And spent 16 years there. Moved to Wyoming because my father was a deer hunter who'd travel from Ohio to Wyoming every year for deer hunting season. He fell in love with Wyoming, so we all moved there. That was my senior year in high school, so I went from a Catholic school in Dayton, Ohio, Chaminade Julienne, which was about 800 to 1,200 people, and then graduated from Hewlett High School, which my graduating class was 32. So
32. See,
32.
I actually came from a place where my graduating class was over 1,000.
well, yeah, you were in Vegas. Yeah. But
Well, allegedly.
aha. But I joined the Air Force when I was going to school at Casper College in Wyoming, and spent 6 years at a junior college having all kinds of fun. Graduated with a Associates of Science and decided I better do something more than this. So I tried to enlist in the Coast Guard and went down to MEP Center in Denver for the processing, and that was a 2-trip type event. So the first trip, you take your ASVAB and do paperwork, and the second trip is when you're going through all the medical, and then after that you would be shipped off. Well, while they were doing the medical all morning long, I was bending over and coughing and everything else for all the docs. Came to lunchtime, and all of the recruits were in there in a gathering area to get a box lunch. They read through all the names. People got a box lunch, and I didn't get a box lunch. So I told the desk sergeant my name. He says, "Nope, you're not on my list." So I said, "Well, what do I do?" And he says, "Did you come here for Coast Guard?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Oh, that's Department of Treasury. You have to find your recruiter, and he will get you lunch." I went up to my recruiter's office, and he wasn't there. He was out to lunch. So I went back down to the desk sergeant, and I said, "If you get me a box lunch, I'll enlist in the Air Force." And he went over and talked to his recruiter guy, and that guy said, "Get him a lunch." So I ate a box lunch. I was happy. Went in and enlisted into the Air Force and spent 20 years there.
Only 20?
Well, I retired. Yeah,
Retired through the military?
retired at 20. Yep.
And, like with your military career, real quick, if you can talk about it and give us a little insight, what did you do?
Well, being prior enlisted, my first job was avionics technician. My first duty location was in Travis Air Force Base in California, and I was working on C-5s and C-141, big planes. But those big planes have a lot of small places. And guess what? I got shoved into all the small places because I'm small. It was interesting. I liked that, but I had because I had prior college, I wanted to continue with a degree. So I.
Now hold on, I gotta mention something here.
Yep.
Because you talk about you're small,
Yeah.
let's let the world know how small you are. You're 5'3"?
5'3", maybe 5'3.5" when I first wake up in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're probably what, 135, 140 pounds?
130 to 35.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Because you're flying at an 80.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
But I decided that I wanted to continue my degree, so I did finish my degree while I was enlisted and got accepted to officer training school and became an officer. As an officer, I did aircraft maintenance, I did aircraft munitions, I did a crossover into supply. So I basically did everything ground support you can do in the Air Force besides personnel. That I just didn't fly. But I did have a fascination with those planes. Loved being on the flight line, watching the launches. And as a maintenance officer, I got to see some really spectacular minimum interval takeoffs where you're launching the fleet for an exercise with B-1 bombers. And if you don't think that's going to rattle your soul, that was a deep noise. That was awesome.
No, no kidding.
Yeah. But being in also in munitions, I was associated to, first off, special weapons. Yeah, the big bada-boom ones. That was interesting, but I also did conventional munitions, and that was the final job that I did in the Air Force before I retired. I was the chief of the conventional munitions branch in USAFE. So learned a lot about that stuff. It was all fun. To say I would do it again is a bit of a stretch. I would do things maybe a little differently, but I enjoyed what I did in those 20 years. And the only reason I wanted to retire as early as I did is because I had a very young family. My youngest, Maya, she was born on the year that I retired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. So you needed to, quit that military career and whatnot so you could finish raising the family.
That's it. I wanted to be the stay-at-home dad instead of the always-away dad. And, well, I've been retired for 21 years because Maya is 21 years old now. I'm getting pretty good at it. I've been retired longer than I served.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Now, Corbin, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your career and how you got started and all this stuff.
Well, it's quite a bit less years than what he had to go through, but I was born in Kansas, Sedgwick County. We were there for a couple years, and then we moved out to California. That's where my older younger brother was born, Riley, and then from there we ended up going to Germany, and that's when I actually started remembering things. I did kindergarten in Germany. Then we finally came back to Kansas, and we just kind of stuck there until I was about 18, 19 years old. Graduated high school, Rose Hill, 2016. Graduating class of like 250, 300-ish people, so still pretty small. Past that, I went into technical school for welding. I was there for about 2.5 years, full-time student, full-time janitor, back at my high school to afford it, so that was fun.
Full-time's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
That is a lot to put on yourself.
Yeah, I had about 6 hours between finishing work and going to school, and about 6 hours between finishing school and going to work, and I made that work for the 2 years that I was doing it. Did a little bit of a welding stint, decided I wanted to do it in the military, saw that there was some potential welding jobs on either ships or submarines. Scored way too good on the ASVAB to get what I really wanted, because they convinced me to go into nuclear machinist mate for submarines. They told
Now,
me.
hold on. So you got to play with nukes, or you got to play with nuclear engines?
Nuclear engines. I was a pusher on the boat. I was in the engine room. I didn't get to see any explosions, thankfully.
Thankfully, yeah.
Yeah, so went in there. They specialized me for engineering laboratory technician. So instead of swinging wrenches and playing with turbines, I was more on the radiological side. I did radiological healthcare, water sampling, and then a little bit of light mechanic work on the side. Couldn't get into the nuclear welding or nuclear emergency welding just because it was too full. Tried going for diver, and then just kind of ran out of time. I ran into some medical issues. Once I finally got out to the submarine, was on and off of it for about 3 years. It was a shipyard boat, so I didn't really get to go out to sea. The only time I did was when we were doing sea trials, and everything that could have went wrong did go wrong, and I went right from sea trials back to shipyard. So
Oh no.
I am the most saltless sailor you've probably ever seen. But I ended up getting medically retired after 5 years in the Navy. And past that, I've just been doing whatever I wanted. My retirement check from the VA covers all my basic daily expenses, and I lived out in Virginia where I retired for about 3 years. Got into rock climbing, visited all the national parks out there, slapped some rocks, got pretty good at it.
Did you say slap some rocks?
Yeah. Local colloquialism between my friends that I had out there. Then the opportunity arose where it was coming time for me to move again, and one of my little brothers is finishing up his nuclear engineering degree here in Manhattan, Kansas. So I'm like, well, I'll give him a place to live, I'll be closer to family, and that's what brought me back out here. Of course, he's really into powered paragliding, so he could not resist dragging me out to the airfield where you guys operate out of, and I got hooked pretty quick, and so that's why I'm here today.
So, is it actually Dad that got you interested, or have you seen videos or anything like that before?
I've seen a couple videos, one guy on YouTube, I think his username starts with Todd. I watched him fly a power paraglider into a Walmart parking lot and pick up some food and then get back up into the air, but that was Tucker God, I think is his
Tucker
name.
God, yeah.
Yeah. That's about the
So to
only
be
thing
clear, everybody everywhere has ever got interested in paramotor has seen a Tucker God video.
Yeah, I didn't think much of it at the time. I'm like, that looks like fun. It also looks expensive, so I'll just stick with rock climbing and all my other little nerdy odds and ends. But no, I was down in the area to visit, I think for
That was for my birthday last year.
for his birthday. Okay, for his birthday. He remembers it better than I do, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
I'm really starting to get into power paragliding. You should come out and do some kiting. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll see. I'll entertain the thought. And
That first day, that was October 8th, my birthday, and you and Julian were in town. And I said, for my birthday, I want you guys to come with me. We're going to do an orientation out at Wichita Paramotor. That's the first time I met you.
Yeah.
That's the first time you guys saw that whole environment. And Leo set us up with some orientation that was just fabulous. I mean, we all three got to sit in a simulator. We all got under a wing, and I just was enthralled. It just hit me that I'm going to do this. Now, Corbin, you did good on that orientation thing, so I think you got a little bit of the bug bite at that time. Julian, he did okay, but he's just not interested in the sport, in the adventure.
Well, I will have to say, all of you did well on the kiting field, Julian, and he's the one that's in Manhattan now doing the nuclear physics, and you know, all of you guys did really well on the field that day. But I really think the bug stuck with you two.
Mm-hmm. With some additional bugging and encouragement from
Yeah,
him.
yeah. I said, look, Corbin, if you want to do this, I will pay your training. Because if you get involved in this and you want to do it, you will get the training. That is a gift from me to you to make sure that you survive the event.
Yeah, that was certainly a big help in keeping the motivation and the enthusiasm for learning the sport up. And now that I'm definitely way more local than I was before, you know, not halfway across the country, it certainly makes it a lot easier to
Yeah.
be engaged, be entertained, and just be excited to be out there and learning how to get skyborne.
Yeah,
Yep.
Skyborn, that's you know, because I will say it's almost like a religion, a rebirth. You know, getting put in the air the first time. You know, you'll never forget your first flight. It'll be you know, burned into your brain, and you know, it's almost like, you know, every flight's cool, but nothing is as cool as your first flight, because it's the first experience, it's the first time you get in the air, it's the first time you get to taste it, and you know, I mean, that enthusiasm will never be the same.
No, it does. That sticks with you. And I will have to put a plug in for USPPA and their training program here, because I realized that in order to do powered paramotor, you are going to make mistakes. If you do it by yourself, those mistakes can cause loss of limb, loss of life, damage to equipment. But
That's
if you're
the big thing,
getting,
it's damage to equipment.
yeah, if you
It
get
costs
the
people
training,
a lot of money to train on their own.
yeah, but if you're getting somebody to train you in the physics of the kiting of the wing, and then of course the familiarization of the motor and how they fit together, and then your first flight, you will still make mistakes, but they will be a whole lot less costly. My first landing was on my butt, well, the first like 20 flights, I mostly landed on my butt. Gotten a lot better.
Well, it was the same thing with me.
Yeah.
My first 40 flights, I couldn't stick a landing to save my life. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things you figure out, you know, it takes a little finesse and a little time, a lot of muscle memory.
Indeed. And confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm at 42 flights now, and for the past 20 flights, they've all been foot landings, stuck
Yes,
to landings.
Congratulations on
Yeah.
that.
And yesterday's landing was zero
Awesome!
wind conditions, and I came in kind of hot, used up all the energy on the flare, but I still had to run my ass off to run that one out.
Yeah, it was nil wind, you know, I tell especially big guys like me, nil wind is gonna be your hardest launch and landing.
Mhm.
Cause they're hard to get the wing up, you're all in power, and then, it's gonna be fast on that backside.
But that was yesterday, and we had Corbin out there, and he did his first reverse kitings.
Really,
Yeah.
first reverse.
That was my second time.
Really?
Yeah, I was out on Friday, did the first couple reverse kitings, and then Saturday was when I polished them down and at least got it to where I could keep it more
That's
stable
right.
in the air.
Yep. Well, those 2 days run in together because when
We
they
had a good
when they're
weekend.
consecutive, they run together for
Yeah,
me.
we had a good weekend. And, you know, it's not rare that we here in Kansas get a string of good days.
Yes.
You know, and, like, you know, what was it, Friday, Saturday was good, and then, today, Sunday's kinda crappy, but tomorrow's supposed to be looking good, so we'll probably be back out at the field.
Well, maybe not. Don't you have an appointment? You have another thing you have to do on Monday.
So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, really appreciate you. So, on Monday, I am going to go get a cardio inversion, cause I have AFib, so they're gonna shock me like a prisoner and, stop my heart for a second and, restart it. And, I might not get to fly, I'm not supposed to operate any machinery for 24 hours, so we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how much your eyes twitching when you get out to the field.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll have to see how that goes. I tell the wife that I'm gonna probably take a little flight, and she's like, don't push it. So, okay, a couple of things, you know, you guys are getting to train together, and, you know, that's pretty awesome. I've got another father and son team that's come out here recently.
That's Bobby and
Well,
Alex.
Alex.
And Robert.
Robert.
But,
Yeah, not Bobby. Bobby.
Alex is only 16, and, you know, Robert's my age. But, they, you know, another father and son team, but, you know, you two, pretty dynamic. I watch your guys' relationship and, whatnot. You guys are pretty in sync together, you know, have a good time together. So, I don't know who wants to start first, but what's it like doing this experience, this journey together?
You go first.
I'd say it's a little, it's fun, but it can be a bit confusing. Obviously, Leo, you're my instructor, and so I preferably want to take the information that you've learned. You've been doing this way longer than my dad has, but my dad picked it up pretty quick, and obviously you trust him to be out there with me in the field to make sure I don't break anything or myself.
Yeah.
He definitely gets very excited when I'm out there, and he's like, "Oh, let's go do this." And I'm like, "Well, let's clear that with Leo first. Make sure he's comfortable with me doing that. I don't want the walkie-talkie blasting. Like, what are you doing? Stop that!"
And get the walkie-talkie off his back so he can hear me.
Yeah. But no, I'm learning pretty quick. I'm definitely getting through the paces of the gliding or the kiting. Apologies, but yeah, no. Started off forward kiting, had some fun with that. Tuckered him out the first day that I started here in the area because we were just doing non-stop forward kites, and he's running beside me the whole time. And
Yep.
I mean,
I was tired.
I got the youthful vigor, and he at about the fifth forward kite that I had done, he's like, "Hey, you ready for a water break?" I'm like, "No."
You need a water because I need a water.
I'm like, "No, I can keep going," but I'm guessing you're asking because you want one.
Yep.
No, I do the same thing, yeah, so you need a break, right? I need a break, I need something to drink. So, on your end, Dad now, what's this like having your boy out here and, doing this together?
Well, I'm very pleased that I was able to learn a lot more about the sport and progressed through PPG 1, and now I'm into PPG 2 type flying maneuvers.
And
And
you're working on your two now.
exactly. So I'm much more confident in my abilities to explain and just keep Corbin enthused. And well, heck, every time I see these guys, and uh, us PPG guys, we talk differently when we're embellishing, because whenever we're bringing up stories about how we're flying, we got our hands up like this and we're talking like this. This is how we talk, our nonverbals. Like fighter pilots will always do this, and bomber pilots will do this.
Right.
But PPG guys, yeah, we're always doing this. But it was exciting that he's starting to learn at least why I'm doing what I'm doing, and listen to the stories, and seeing him getting much more excited about it. And I've been waiting for him to make this move, because it was almost a year in planning.
Yeah, I started talking about it like late December last year, early January. I knew a move was coming up. I just didn't really know when, and it kind of got trumped on me like 2 months as like before the date that I absolutely needed to move. So I had to kick things in gear and get a whole lot of stuff sorted out. Largely just getting my excessive pile of vehicles that mostly run.
Mostly didn't run, yeah.
Oh no, it was a majority. It was just the one problem. Problem
Did you
child.
have yard cars?
Hmm?
I said, did you have a bunch of yard cars?
I had one yard car, but it's a newer Volkswagen Golf. It's a 2016. I had done very significant amounts of modification to it. Made it very fast, and then made it very broke in an unfortunate circumstance. And I had been working on it for about 3 years at that point, and had to get some body work done. And then by the time the body work done, something broke with the transmission, and then I was saving up money for the transmission. Finally had it all saved up, and then it got some water inside and started frying electronics. And I was like, oh man, I just can't get this thing running for longer than 2 weeks.
It's funny how fast and broke coincide together.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, when I was doing muscle cars, you know, constantly breaking something, whether it be a drive line, something in the drivetrain, or something stupid like a water pump or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're burning the candle at both ends on engine lifespan and equipment lifespan, it tends to lead to high turnover of parts that you need.
Yeah. So now that vehicle is sitting in my yard, and we're going to get it running again, because I haven't yet been able to drive it and experience its capabilities. Now, I'm not going to drive it quite the way you experience its capabilities, but I do want to feel that torque and horsies. Yeah.
Well, it'll spin all 4 tires. I guarantee you that.
Nice.
And then you also left a Suzuki DRZ 400 at my house, and you know, I've taken that apart to get it fixed.
Yep.
But great fun. It's good projects, because, well, I would say you're the most mechanically inclined out of all the 4 kids.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely. Maya is the one that's next on the list, because Julian and Riley, no, they don't want to touch those greasy things.
So Maya, your daughter, she's pretty range turning.
Oh yeah, she'll get right into it. You bet.
Nice. So, you know, you're in this progression together. Like Julian, how do you see yourself flying? Are you going to be one of those guys that does acro, or are you going to be like your dad, just a cruiser, like your dad and I, just to cruise around, little swoopy doops once in a while?
So, I mean, I'm trying to keep my expectations of what I want to do pretty much absent until I actually get to that point. I do have quite the perfectionist mentality, so getting things under lock, it's always like, well, what can I do next? What can I do next? Just very completionist about it. So probably the most likely thing that's going to happen is I'm going to get up there and I'm going to start, you know, get my first flights in, just kind of cruise around, enjoy the wind, enjoy the altitude. And then as I get more comfortable with that, it's like, okay, well, what can I do next? I don't think I'm going to get too sporty with it, but learning at least a couple maneuvers and just being able to flying around is probably the best. Honestly, I think the majority of my flying, once I'm able to do it mostly instructor free, is going to be just getting up in the air with him and just flying circles.
Flying circles, flying patterns, you do cross countries. But I will tell you this, because I've known him ever since he was born. He's going to get to the point where you're going to do a wing over before I do a wing over.
Oh,
You'll
likely.
probably do a sat where I will never do a sat. No, that's just
Yeah,
not
I don't even
for
teach
me.
sats.
You're going to get faster.
They can be pretty dangerous, you know, you get too much G-force and going, you can pass out and actually spin yourself into the ground, so I kind of avoid sats and that stuff, but wing overs we'll be doing for PPG 3, that way, you know, it's a progression and you understand the energy management, because that's what they're about on the instruction side is the energy management. Then we'll go through stuff like big ears and, big ears and beeline stalls and stuff like that, because they all have a purpose.
Yeah.
And see, I will do those things to progress. So I can say, yes, I can do it. But it's not going to be something I will continue to do for my enjoyment. It's for my learning. He, on the other hand, will probably do them because you'll enjoy it more. You'll progress and you'll probably do it more just because you enjoy it.
Maybe. We'll see. I've lost a significant portion of my desire to do deft acrobatics and achieve high rates. I'll likely just want to get up to probably like PPG 3, just have a very good understanding of all the safeties, features, and capabilities of the powered paraglider, and then whether I choose to use them or not, depends on whether I'm showing off, I guess, is likely going to be the case.
Now, your dad wants to go all the way to instructor, which I think is pretty cool. And we'll have to see how that plays out. And then maybe you can get some of your other boys or your girl involved.
Well, that's a possibility, yep.
We'll see. They're all in pretty advanced and intensive career paths right now. Riley being in the Space Force as an officer, freshly married, figuring out his life there. Julian, still kind of a broke college kid, not really much funds to put aside right now, finishing up his nuclear engineering. And then Maya in her senior year, working towards a more medical path, wants to be a doctor, and then
Senior year of high school?
college.
College.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I hope she's not in high school by 21.
Well, I wasn't sure because he said he had retired, you know, when she was born. So, how long have you actually been retired, Mike?
21 years.
21
Yeah.
years.
So Maya completed her junior year in college, and she just took the MCAT, waiting results to get acceptance into a medical school, but she still got her senior year to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's to get your 4-year degree before you can go into medical school.
Yeah, so you can go to school for another 8 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
So she's got a long road ahead of her.
And then your residency, and I mean,
Yeah.
being a doctor, you're in school for life.
Yeah. So it might take a while for me to get her in the air, but I do believe she has the mentality and aptitude that if she has the capability, she would learn it and she would do good. She would.
Whether or not she would join that is entirely up to her, and I have not even an inkling if that would be something that she would really
That'd
be
have to be
entertained
later.
by.
I mean, much later. I mean, I only started when I was 62. You know, it might take her a little while too because she's going through young adulthood, learning a field that takes a lot of schooling. She's currently infatuated with a young man, and that could then
Oh, boy.
complicate things with family and yeah. But as long
Boys are bad.
as long as I'm around, I'll keep highlighting the fact that I like to consider myself now not a student anymore. I'm an PPG ambassador. I want to show other
There it
people
comes.
what
Here
you
it
can do.
All right, well, you might as well put on this stupid hat.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, I don't know, we've given you a lot of crap over this thing.
Yep. This is my cold weather ground support hat. If it's cold outside and I need a hat, well, I'm being identified, and if I'm running around on the field and there's people that need help, they know that this means I'm available to help. I'm ground crew now.
What in the hell makes that hat say, I'm available for help?
Well, I guess you have to know it a little bit.
Might as well get you a nice what is it called? High visibility vest and some leopard leggings to make sure.
No. Now don't get ridiculous about this.
That hat's
Because the hat is not
enough.
ridiculous, right?
Yeah, that hat's obviously not ridiculous enough.
No, not at all.
No.
That's a good cold weather field hat.
You need a boa, and, you know, a pink boa, and, like you said, leopard print pants, and, you know, a high-vis vest with, Hawaiian print. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
I have.
Or even camouflage, you know?
All right, guys, get off of this track.
Well, like I said, you take a lot of crap for that hat, but I will say one thing about that hat that, you know, displays for you is a lot of pride.
Oh yeah.
You really enjoy this sport, and you really, take time with the new people, that come out. I mean, you're a new guy yourself. But
Yeah.
you take time with these new guys and really put things forward. And even helping your boy out has been, you know, a big help to me. You know, I get a field full of people, and I realize I'm busy when all 8 radios are taken up, and, you know, there's people running around all over the field, and I'm trying to figure out who to give a wing to, you know, who's on what wing, do I have enough, you know, and you've been nice enough too to even, afford, Corbin using your equipment.
Oh yeah. That works really great. Now he won't be able to use my motor, but he's already got a motor.
Yeah.
He's got a motor with a history.
Yeah.
The lacerator.
And a motor that you've already broken.
I pulled the pull cord out. That's all. We'll get it fixed.
I didn't even get to see it before it was broken.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, there is a whole story behind the lacerator. So anybody watching this, show here, go back and look at the, Jeff Carlson episode. Jeff was the one that had chopped his hand up at EFD, and the motor that he did it on was, the one that, Corbin's picked up. And, you know, I do have to say that, you know, to be clear, Jeff did not do this with the running motor. This was during a storm. The, prop was freewheeling, and all he could think about was saving the motor. And he went to stop the prop, and it stopped him. So, but yeah, Corbin's ended up with the lacerator, and I hope you call it that in the future. It's definitely earned its name.
I'll try to shake some of the bad voodoo out of it in the air.
There you go.
Give it a
There you
more
go.
appropriate title, but yeah, for the time being, it's the lacerator.
Well, and to be honest, you know, there's not a lot of bad voodoo with that motor. Now, I've replaced a couple bearings in it, and it tends to break. It eats pull cords for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the guy that yanks on it unmercifully, but it's actually a really good machine. It's for everybody out there. It's a Corsair 172 Black Devil on a Kango Canbrook, and it's got a 3-blade prop, and it is a zoomer. This is a really fun machine to fly. It's a little small for me. I kind of have to give a lot of pressure and run my butt off to get in the air because, you know, I'm 250 pounds. But what do you weigh, Corbin?
I'm at around 150 right now.
Yeah, that motor's gonna do you perfectly. And, you know, you're not a weakling
not too worried about it.
Yeah,
I'm actually pretty excited for it.
dude, it's a good little motor. Now, we're gonna switch out your harness. It's got a split leg on it now, and I generally don't like putting new guys on split legs. The reason why is they're really scoopy, so it tends to push a new guy into sitting on launch, which we do not want. I don't know if you were out there and saw my wife's first attempt to launch, but,
I hadn't seen about it, but I had heard about it, and I saw the damage to her cage, and I think the prop as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
the prop's toast, we replaced the piece on the cage. And, you know, honestly, stuff like that, I think, is a good lesson. You know, it costs money, but, you'll never forget it. And, you know, she's been working really, really hard to, get in the air. She's been training for probably, 6 months or so, really hard since the beginning of the season. And, you know, it was a mistake. I sat on launch, you know, and it wasn't my first flight either. I sat on launch later on because I thought I was used to feeling the motor pick me up and go. And, you know, I had a prop in the cage too, so. But I think in the long run, it made me a better pilot, because, you know, making mistakes like that, you know, ingrain it in your head, you understand the physics better. You know, just hearing, don't sit on launch, don't sit on launch, don't get in the seat until I tell you to.
Easier said than done.
Well, yeah.
With
about-
new students, because my first flight, yeah, I was cruising right along, and that thing was providing lift, and because I'm so light, it provided more lift. I didn't have to go into pressure. It was providing lift and starting to point. It kind of scooped me. I sat in it. It sank down. I was only that far away
Yes, you
from
were.
doing it.
Yes, you were,
Yeah.
so you came real close to sitting on launch. And, you know, about 50%, from what I've seen, trained or not in the simulator. And we've got a new simulator now, so I can train out
Yeah.
sitting on launch. But, about 50% of people will end up, sitting on launch. And I think it's, environmental, because they feel the motor picking them up, and like, oh, okay, it's time to go. I better sit down. Or it's, you know, it's psychological too, because there's so much going on. You're working so hard, you're physically being, strained and whatnot to get the wing up. And then, it all goes right, and all of a sudden you feel the lift.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, I think I'm gonna have a seat because I'm gone.
Yep.
But, it's unfortunately not that way.
No problem. I escaped on that first launch, learning that lesson about being scooped. Now the second launch, nope, I was running into the sky. I did that, and I think on those first few launches, a lot of it is you're powering up, you're running along, you're leaning back into that, you know, trusting the thrust, leaning back into that thrust, and at that moment you feel that lift come up and it's lifting the motor, you kind of lean back into it instead of, okay, I'm going fly, I'm going to lean forward now and keep running it. And that lesson occurred to me when I made a mistake on, I think it was about launch 4, and I had stowed my brakes to start the motor, and then left my brakes stowed. Had the motor running, and I start running out. I'm up at power, and all of a sudden I realize that I'm running out of field before I go into the field, and I don't have my brakes in my hand. So I reach up and snatch those things and pulled brake down, and that's when that pressure to do lift off. That's the first time I actually felt that. And it was like, oh, that makes it so much easier. So by mistake, I learned how that pressure on launch really assists launch.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's why self-training, can be so, arduous for the student, is because, you know, the mistakes you make, you know, every one of them is useful. Every mistake, you're gonna learn something from it, but I don't think it's intuitive to not have feedback from somebody who knows to help with those mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, this is one of those sports, and that's why self-training can be so expensive, is because you make a mistake, and, you know, it costs you money. You know, it's a broken prop, it's a broken cage.
Could be a broken foot or a broken leg or, you know, any number of things that can be very detrimental to your health.
Well, and, you know, I think this is one of those sports where self-training is possible.
Yeah.
I tell people, you're not gonna die, you're probably not gonna maim yourself, but you're gonna break a lot of equipment,
Yeah.
potentially, and, you know, it'll cost you more than maybe what training would. You know, and depending on the motor that you're on and you're flying, you know, it could be 2 weeks, to get, you know, parts and whatnot from Europe,
Yeah.
where a lot of these motors are made. You know, and in that time, you're not getting any feedback. It's you know, it's the same, it's the same monotony of, you know, you break something, you don't, you know, you don't have anything to repair and move on quickly. And I think too, that's where schools come into play, is because, you know, we have extra equipment. We have something you can hurry up and switch off and go fly on. That way you're not waiting and the learning curve doesn't deepen because you don't have equipment available. You know, I think that, you know, self-training again is possible. If anybody out there is self-training, you know, get the USPPA Bible. It'll help you a lot. But, you know, even if you got a buddy that maybe got you into the sport or something like that, can kind of help lead you through, you know, that's something's better than nothing.
And, you know, looking at the syllabuses, and anybody can go on USPPA website and you can download the syllabus so you can read it and seeing the progression for what you need to know for PPG 1, then PPG 2, then PPG 3. Just reading through them and seeing the progression, it makes good logical sense. PPG 1 is learn the mechanics of the wing so that you can fly, but you don't have all the education for determining when you should fly and where you can fly and where you can't fly, and that's where PPG 2 comes back in. And then PPG 3, it seems like that's teaching more about how to set up your equipment. If you're going to be a pilot, you need to know those weight and balances and how to set up your equipment. 1 and 2, it's always go to your instructor, have him do that. But 3, no, it's going to be assumed that you're going to eventually get a new motor. Well, you're going to have to get it set up correctly, and you may want to get a different wing. Well, you need to know how to select a wing for your specific weight range and your skill range. And then, of course, in PPG 3, they're talking more about communications so that you could fly into controlled airspace, but you have to be in communication with the controlling authority, and that communication, that's a language you have to learn. You have to know the format.
And to reiterate real quick, we do not fly into controlled airspace without permission.
Exactly.
And that's where the radio can, you know, come into play. But, you know, the other thing I see, and it's actually kind of unfortunate, you know, I spend a lot of time on Facebook and on Marketplace, and, you know, I'll see some equipment for sale. it's usually a motor and a wing, and, you know, it's beginner stuff, you can tell. So I'll ask them, you know, hey, what's the deal, how come you're not flying? And this is the story I get. Well, I went and trained with so-and-so. We got about 3 or 4 flights, and I came home, and it was time to launch on my own, so, you know, I got all set up, and I went to launch, and I broke a prop. And then, you know, it took 3 weeks to get the prop, and, you know, they're enthusiastic, so they go for it again, and, you know, things don't go well, and, you know, maybe they eat some lines on the wing, or they fall down and bend a hoop, and now their confidence is just falling through the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they wait for the repairs and whatnot, and, you know, now this is starting to get expensive, you know, they spent 300 something on a prop, now they need a new hoop, you know, depending on manufacturers, that can be upwards of $500, $800, you know, and, you know, there's significant others, like, what are you doing, you know, how come you can't do this, you spend all this money on training, that kind of thing. And their confidence just goes through the floor. And then, you know, they spend less time trying to fly, they spend less time kiting. And then next thing you know, their stuff ends up on Marketplace because they're done.
Mm-hmm.
They don't wanna spend any more money on training, they don't want to, you know, try it again and break something else, cause they feel like the value in their equipment, the thousands of dollars they spend, I mean, sure, we're cheaper than airplanes and whatnot, but this sport still isn't, you know, overall cheap, you know, a person can have a good $10,000 into a wing, a motor, a helmet,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a reserve, and then they start, you know, muffing it up, and that really, you know, changes their mind frame, and it takes out their confidence, they, you know, they're worried about breaking equipment, they figure it's gonna cost them a bunch of money to go back to the instructor, and a lot of instructors charge for returns. So that's why, as an instructor, I usually tell everybody I'm your instructor for life. Because you don't have to pay me more money to come back and, you know, refresh your skills, keep you in the air, whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely hate hearing these stories and then seeing their equipment up on Marketplace for half the value because they just wanna get their money out of it. You know, the wife or the husband is saying, why is this thing sitting here? You know, you were all excited, what's going on? How come you're not in the air? So, you know, in a way, it's, I call it, you know, and I mean this in the best way possible, but it's kinda like a pilot death. You know, they didn't die, but the pilot inside of them did.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, self-training, then they get into a self-training situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wish more schools would send students out with, you know, more flights and give them the option to come back without any charge. That way they can continue that flying career and they fly for a lifetime, not just get 3 flights, 6 flights, and they're done.
Yeah, and sent off, and like you say, first time they're trying it by themselves and something goes wrong, that shakes your confidence. That's why you can learn the technical skills of flying, but you also need to get integrated into the community so you have that support. If you went to a school that doesn't allow you to return without significant costs, but if you have integrated with a group of folks and they will help you at keeping your confidence high and assisting with those trial periods when you're trying to do it by yourself and maybe just not doing it great. Keep your confidence high.
Well, yeah, and confidence in the sport is a lot of it. I mean, you know, like Julian, how do you feel
This is
confidence-
Corbin.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
Corbin, I did it wrong.
Yep.
How do you feel with, your confidence in the way, you know, your progression, the way things are going, just the simple kiting that you got? What do you feel like confidence is for you?
So, the very first time I'm doing anything new, obviously I'm a little shaky about it. I'm just racing through my head trying to remember all the steps, and then I get it up, and even if I dropped it immediately or didn't make the right corrections and it goes down super quick, it's like, okay, I didn't die, I didn't break anything, let's try it again. And then the second time I do a little bit better, and fortunately for me, kiting has been pretty intuitive and fast to pick up. Usually by the third try, I'm able to maintain a rather sensible amount of comfort and control over the wing.
Yeah, you picked up reverses really, really quick. I was actually kind of surprised how fast you picked up the reverse. And like, you know, when you came out for your orientation the first time, you were spot on the forward.
I've definitely gotten a little bit smoother with the forwards. I'm not pulling on the brakes as much. The most recent little tip that I actually got from one of the other power player community members out there, his name's Marco, is I'm still doing the beginner mistake of having my arms way out here, getting a little bit more comfortable with keeping them closer to my chest. That's going to be probably the next practice point I have when I'm out there kiting again. And spinning around from a forward kite to a reverse kite and control it for a little bit and comfortably bring it back to the ground, and then eventually past that being able to swap between forward and reverse for an extended run of kiting. But
And that's our goal. Like in the beginning, we don't, I don't let you turn from a reverse right away, because if you don't have the surges under control, that wing will fall back into the power band, reinflate, and yank you over backwards.
yeah.
So surge control is a big deal there, but, I mean, I wish I actually had a video to play now of how well you forward kite and how quick you picked up the reverse.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Normally, I don't really compliment myself enough if I'm being completely honest. I feel like currently, and I'm fighting against the will even to think this still, is like I'm doing everything just like to expectation. I'm not going above and beyond. I'm not really falling behind. And obviously, your compliment and your instruction and my dad's compliment and instruction really helps me out with that. So I'm glad to know that I am progressing really well and picking up things quickly. I'm honestly getting pretty excited and motivated for ground school, because I've been in the Power Paragliding Bible here for a little bit now. I've read a couple chapters about first flight, emergencies in the air. Their instructions on getting a forward kite and a reverse kite in there are pretty well explained. Lots of good pictures, but knocking out the kind of sit down intellectual portion, just to have the vocabulary, the understanding, and once I have that, being able to understand more thoroughly the corrections that I'm being given while I'm learning how to be extremely consistent with my kiting, that's something I'm really excited for. So waiting on ground school is kind of like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Right, right, and we'll be doing a bunch of ground school this week. I know you've got a little bit to travel, so, you know, I try to work it out to where, you know, it maximizes your time. But I really enjoy doing ground school. It's a lot of fun. We get to watch a lot of cool videos. I've got a lot of carnage I'm gonna show you. You know, ground school, and so you know, I'll fly you without finishing ground school, but I won't let you fly on your own without finishing ground school. You know, there's a few dynamics that we'll have to go over in the beginning, you know, like torque and stuff like that, so that you understand while you're in the air. But all the airspace, the weather, that kind of stuff, I'm gonna be in control of in your first few flights. So that kind of stuff can kind of back burner and get you in the air, because that's the fun part, you know. Like people, you know, focus on kiting. Well, I don't teach you to kite.
No.
I teach you to fly.
Mhm.
Kiting's part of it. But, same thing with the book work. I'm not just teaching you airspace, I'm teaching you how to fly in airspace.
Exactly.
So, it's, ground school's a blast. I mean, plus we get to, relax, shoot the crap and then watch videos and play in the book and, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing ground school and I think you'll have some fun at it too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the education portion of your training approach. You have training, which is how do you control the wing, get out there and do that training. But the education portion is the ground school that teaches you the judgment that you're going to need. Once you have learned to fly, now you have to know how to make those judgment calls of when and where to fly, or more specifically, when and where not to fly.
Well, yeah, and ground school is the technical side of things,
Mhm.
like we go over how to cross power lines,
Mhm.
how to look over an LZ and make sure it's safe, for takeoff and landing, airspace is a big one, and I'm thankful to USPPA, another shout out. These guys, the big thing that the USPPA has done for us as instructors is standardized the learning. So with the syllabus, with the Bible, it makes it a lot easier and we can go through things more thoroughly and in order as to apply to the actual flights.
Mhm.
I find that with the USPPA, I'd be lost without the Bible. I would be lost without the syllabus. I'd probably develop my own thing, but the way they've standardized the learning and the classes that they offer on the website, that's where it started, like with airspace.
Mhm.
Is, I'll send you guys the airspace, class on the website, and
Yeah.
then all I do is review it with you.
Yeah.
So you learn the basics, and then I think the learning comes in the review, like I'll point on the map, hey, can you fly here? Well, yeah, okay, tell me why.
Mhm. Yep.
So, all right. Father and son team here. And, you guys are a lot of fun to watch on the field. I'll tell you that. You guys running around, you guys getting excited. It was like last night, it was classic with the father-son thing. I said I was gonna go fly.
Mhm.
And, Corbin was, well, he's gonna go fly, and you thought I meant that you had to get off the field. And, Dad's like, no, we're gonna keep going and doing this. And, you weren't bickering, but a little difference between each other, trying to get that figured out. I thought that was cool as hell. Because I will say, Mike, I relied on you a lot. You wanted to become an instructor, you're excited about new people, and now you get to run around the field with your boy.
That's important. I mean, I'm really enthused about this stuff. And for me, as a father, as a dad, to say, you're my son, I want to teach you this. It's like, I got excited when I taught you how to drive.
Mm-hmm.
But, that was fun for me. I like that. This is something different. I would love to be involved in all your training, but I'm not an instructor. So you have an instructor, but I can help the instructor help you. Yeah.
As long as I know the clear line of communication with the expectations of Leo
Yeah.
are properly given to you, so you're not trying to push a boundary on anything. But yeah, you're excited to teach me about just about anything. I'll try to sit down and get into the Bible for a little bit. He's like, hey, let me show you how to set up this windsock, or hey, this is like the little wind pressure gauge that we use to measure gusts and whatnot. Here, let me come out and show it to you, or hey, this is how we properly pack and stow these. This is for that's looking. I'm like, please give me a second. I want to read a little. Let me sit down. My knees are not good.
Well, and your dad, he's a tape recorder, man.
Oh yeah.
He absolutely follows everything that I teach and whatnot. That's why I have a lot of confidence in him with working with you. Plus, I have to admit, I really enjoy watching you two interact, and you know your progression that's under your dad. I feel like I can give your pa a little bit of a gift here to let him kind of help quite a bit with the training.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I originally was gonna get into this with my son, and my son was in the Marine Corps at the time, and he just didn't have time. But, the thought of being able to go do something cool like this with my kid, that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, we're pretty in tune with interests and whatnot. We both like to tinker around on mechanics, and
Yeah,
now we're
yeah.
both, or I'm at least trying to get in the air, join them. So
But I like to cut grass and mow my lawn. I can never get you to like it.
just because you put me on like 3.5 acres with a machine that only half runs, dull blades, and you're like, yeah, I want this done in 3 hours. It's like, I just got home from
Oh,
school.
you're exaggerating.
Oh my God, you work me real good. Always telling me save the labor for the young.
Yep, well, that is a true statement. I do not mind using somebody else's muscle.
Well, I think you might have learned that a little bit in the military,
Hmm.
but you turned out to be and I'm gonna say it because you are to me, you turned out to be a pretty good kid. I enjoy being around you. Plus, you're left-handed, which is a big one for me. So that means you're gonna do it better than everybody else.
There you go. There you
Always
go.
do try.
But, so real quick, I'm curious,
Mhm.
start with Corbin. You've got this progression, you're in the middle of it, you are set up, flight's coming, you're kiting, we're gonna start doing some simulator work. What's your big takeaway right now from the training, working with your dad? Give me your big toe, theory of everything.
I mean, from a logistical standpoint, everything is comfortable, the instruction is thorough, it's exciting to be there, the community is really respectful and happy to give out hints. From a entertainment and enthusiasm standpoint, I'm really enjoying getting into the sport and learning it. It's pretty intuitive, it's fun, it's exciting to know that rather than doing it on the ground, I'm going to be several hundred feet in the air safely. And every penny that I've put to this so far has been worth it and then some. It's very exciting. I expect this to be a long-standing hobby for me, just like rock climbing has been. So I hold them both in very high regard, and I'm very excited to be getting more in tune with powered paragliding.
Okay, and Dad, what's your big takeaway with training with your boy, watching where he's at? What's your big toe theory of everything?
It is extremely satisfying to see Corbin accept the idea of this, that he knows that it is really my passion and it's my lifestyle. He's trying it, and I think he's going to like it. And I get to experience the same sense of like when I was teaching him to drive. I want you to do this. And he does it because we have the appropriate training, he has the appropriate books, and he's learning it. Like yesterday, it was one of those aha moments. He was doing reverse launch, and for like 3 or 4 of them, the center of the wing was frontaling before it totally inflated, which caused a deformation. It did come out, but it wasn't pretty. And I finally figured it out because I was watching his wing mostly, but he's got the hands together, knuckles, when he's holding the A's, but he was holding them too close to himself. and he's pulling back with his body. I said, no, 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 stretch those arms out and pull back with your butt. And he did that, and it was like, it just came up and whoof. Just that one thing I was able to notice and help him get that situation solved. That was very rewarding for me.
Well, and it's also, it's funny, trying to get a student to not yank up the wing
Mm-hmm.
and actually use the reverse motion to bring up the wing. And that can be one of those things. The other one is, you know, a student when they're setting up the wing or when they're, you know, trying to build a wall, they end up keep walking around it as it does one thing or another instead of staying into the wind.
Right.
And trying to get that across to somebody is, you know, like pulling teeth in an angry hog.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's coming together, and seeing those progressions, because I know what it was like when I was learning it and I wasn't doing as good as him. I fought that wing a lot. You had to yell a lot about, nope, get under that wing, go under it, pull that brake. And I just would get locked up into an argument with the wing, and I lost. He's doing much, much better. He's easy to teach.
Well, and, you know, because there's so much going on, students have a tendency on focusing on one thing instead of pulling the big picture.
Yeah.
Your forwards were always very, very good, very consistent.
Yeah. To me, they feel fluid. I really like the forward launch.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you had your first reverse launch here not long ago, right?
Yeah, it was three sessions ago. I did a reverse launch, and it worked out good. And I had my nephew out there, and he was supposed to be videoing it, and he missed that launch. He got my landing, and that was a very nice video of that, but he missed my launch.
Well, and I mean, how did it feel for you finally, you know, in your progression, you're pushing PPG2,
Yeah.
and you're finally, because the wind gave it to you.
Exactly.
You know, it's a lot about condition out here, but how do you feel about getting that first reverse?
It was a confirmation of what I knew I was going to be able to do, but I didn't have wind conditions to do it where I felt that was the time to do it. And when I finally had the wind condition, and it only took a 5-mile-an-hour wind to pull that reverse launch up, and pulled that up and stabilized it, and then turn around with the motor on my back, because that's always been a tangle thing. I knew I was going to get to it. It was just a confirmation of it's going to happen.
Well, and two, I gotta tell everybody here in Kansas, you either have too much wind or not enough.
Yeah,
you know,
it's either coming along and gusty, and then it goes,
Yeah.
sock just falls.
Yeah, and, you know, Kansas, like I've always said, is an angry 2-year-old with a dirty diaper when it comes to weather. You know, there's a big joke here that I learned when I came: if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
Mhm.
You know, turn around and you know, you'll get better weather. But you know, so everybody understands that your reverse was based on finally getting the conditions safe to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And the wind was high enough to be able to get that reverse.
Right. And it's all very time situational, because you go through around here, you go through some winds, they get low enough so that it's safe to fly, and the thermals are finally easing up, so that reverse launch capability, it will exist for a little bit of time, but then by the time I got back to landing on that flight, the wind had gone down, and I was landing in nil winds.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was nil when you returned.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we get a lot of wind changes too, you know. Last night, the wind changed, I was flying the track, the wind changed on setup. I flew around for 15 minutes. I came back and the wind had changed completely,
Yeah.
almost to 180 from what I was doing.
Oh, it was a 180, yeah. But it was a beautiful silky landing. I will say that. That was a beautiful silky landing.
Yeah, you know, and you talk about self-training, you know, with the trike.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't have anybody here in Kansas. All my, you know, I'm a foot launch instructor, and I want my tandems desperately.
Mm-hmm.
And so all my training has kind of been on my own. Now, I'm already flying, you know, foot launch, so I have a lot of understanding, so it's not like starting from the beginning, but in a lot of ways it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, learning that trike has been, I wouldn't say arduous, but it's been a challenge. I had a couple of rollovers in the beginning.
Yep. I was there for that. I saw him.
But, you know, trying to learn this strike and, you know, get it smooth and developed. I think I'm at flight 11 or 12 now,
Yeah.
something like that. And, it has been very, very interesting. And, you know, I come down after, you know, after a flight, and I get that good landing. And I'm just, you know, it's almost like first time flight kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, I've had a couple of gnarly ones, but I've been lucky I haven't broke equipment, I haven't hurt myself. You know, last night's takeoff was a little bit wild. I think literally the wind had changed, from when I inflated the wing to when I got to the end of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, trying to get over the wheat before,
Yep.
before, it all went bad, but, you know, I'll take out some wheat, I'm not worried about it. So anyways, so, do you have any messages for your dad? We can make it official and all on the air here. Anything you wanna say to him about, this progression and what's been happening?
You've made it real easy to encounter my mistakes, figure out the solution, and learn from them. It's so much fun to just be out there and doing something with you again. It's been a
That's
long
cool.
time since I've done anything outside of just visitation, so I'm very happy to be out here and learning with you and eventually joining you in the skies. And
Yep.
I'm very proud with how much you've gotten over your fear of heights, and your ability to explain and teach has definitely developed better. Maybe a little overzealous with how much you communicate, but at least all the words are correct.
I talk too much?
No,
What?
No, not at all. Well, I will say, and that's one of the reasons why I love having you down on the show, is he's got a knack for words. How he puts stuff out, you know, it keeps it interesting and keeps it fun. So I'd have to say right now, don't let your head blow up or you wear the stupid hat. You know, you're probably one of my favorite guests that I've had in a while, you know, to come on the show. You just really like expressing yourself. Now, same thing, Mike, what do you got to say? What do you got to say to the boy and how you feel about all this going down?
Well, it's really amazing to see how you're learning. I really want you to enjoy this sport for yourself, not for me. But you've really only started into the obsession with it. Eventually, you'll get up every morning, go on your computer, and check the weather for the day. You're looking at the winds. Nope, can't do that. I guess I'll go rock climbing. And here in Kansas, that's going to be rather limited. There's some places, but with this sport, you can also just have fun showing off your equipment as like I said, an ambassador. I went to an air show, car show at Augusta Regional, and I just sat out there with my motor on my cage on the back of the Mini and had the wing in the back and had people come up and ask questions. And I loved doing that. That was fun. Because here I am sitting at next to a Ford, or no, that was Alice Chalmers tractor at a car show on an air ramp with, I had my Mini with its cargo rack on it, and then my motor on the back, and it makes it look like, well, did I try to make a flying car?
Did you have people that just come up?
Yeah, they said, does this work?
They just wanted to talk about the Mini. They didn't care about the prop and the propeller and the
Well, no,
machine.
they saw the engine on, my motor on the back of the Mini, and they does this make this thing fly? I said, no, this is just for PPG. It's just how I haul it around.
Yeah, but that was a lot of fun. Because you had done that while I think we were at another event.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's another thing. I love your help with, you talk about being an ambassador, but you definitely have embraced the idea of going and helping people learn about.
I want to show it off. Yeah, I want to show it off. I want to get other people excited and enthused about it. That's why it's good to see him get excited and enthused about it.
Yeah, well, you guys are gonna have an absolute blast together. And, I really, really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us. Now, I do wanna make a quick shout out to, Can Cook America. They have really helped us a lot with the equipment. So if you're looking for any machines, a good, reliable flying frame, one of the most modular out there that, easy to take apart, quick to put together, and excellent customer support. Go to cancookAmerica.com, and, you're gonna be flying a Kangook, you're gonna be flying a Kangook, and, these are great machines. Brian Hunter there at Kangook America just works his butt off to keep everybody happy and those machines going. He does great work. And then the other one I want to, make a shout out to is lightflight.us. So that's where you can get helmets, wings, Vitarazi parts, that kind of thing. They're a Vitarazi importer, and they are just fantastic. Again, the customer service and, taking care of the customers. So, hopefully, I don't know, if maybe we can get them to run us a sponsorship here. Wichita Paramotor coast to coast, just, throw
Hint,
it out there. But, anyways, I really appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with us on Wichita Paramotor coast to coast. Again, after you fly, I would love to have you back, after your first flight, Corbin, and, kind of get, your perspective after you finally get in the air. We've got a good idea of how you're feeling and how things are going for you before you fly, but I honestly would love to, get that first thought after, getting into the air.
Well, it's good to hear that you value my feedback, and I'm also very excited for that. And it's been fun being on this show for the first time. I'm not a huge talker, so I tend to be a little bit more quiet. But yeah, as my confidence for the sport develops and my capability, I'd love to be back on here again and give more tips and updates and listen to him prattle on about how proud he is.
Nah, I'll let you do that.
Okay, we'll see how that stands in the future.
Right. Well, guys, again, I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate everybody that's come and taken a look. Smash that like button. This video will end up on YouTube as well. So we're really needing YouTube subscribers so we can go live on YouTube as well. So go hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. And same thing on Facebook. We are now on the Wichita Paramotor Facebook page. So keep up to dates on what we're doing and the shows that we're having. We're always training, always training. We even train through the winter. So if you want to learn more about PPT or powered paragliding, place you can go is usppa.org. That can help you. There's a map there to help you find an instructor in your area, or reach out to us, wichitaparamotor.com, or give us a call at 316-990-0482. And we're always looking to help. We've got a full selection of equipment, end wings, helmets, chest bags, emergency kits, you name it, we've got it on the website. And, we put a lot of videos and stuff up there as well. So, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate these guys very, very much for coming out and hanging out with us and having a blast. My name is Leo Kiesling. This is Wichita Paramotor Coast to Coast. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next Sunday.